Hi guys, alright. Today's video is the first top 10 video that I am really experimenting with to see how you guys respond to these kinds of videos, because I do want to kind of make these more fun, relaxed videos, not always focus on current weather related content, but also put out some fun top 10 related videos about weather. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video, because this one is actually it was just really fun putting this list together for you guys. This is my top 10 mind-blowing facts about the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, about literally just this past year's Atlantic hurricane season, which was a truly insane hurricane season in the Atlantic that we will all remember likely till the day we die. Alright, so let's jump right into it. Alright, number 10, the official forecasts. So the reason I put this as number 10 was because, especially the early on forecasts for the season, started out really low. As you can see, the first official forecast that was put out for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season was from tropical storm risk in around the mid to the end of December of 2019. They called for only 15 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. And that was pretty much the general consensus of a majority of the first few original forecasts from the Colorado State University. Again, tropical storm risk, they pretty much kept it the same with their next update in April of 2020. And the Weather Channel's forecast as well kind of agreed generally with those earlier forecasts. But then, as we progressed towards the end of April into May, June, July, and August, you can see the forecasts really started to go up in potential active activity in terms of active activity for the Atlantic Basin. You can see the North Carolina State University and Penn State University, they put out a very, very concerning outlook. Particularly Penn State University only put out their named storm outlook, which originally that was called 15 to 24 named storms. North Carolina State University called for 18 to 22 named storms. I don't know what SMN is, but they called for 15 to 19 named storms. But you can see, as we progress, that the amounts of named storms and forecasted named storms, forecasted total hurricanes and major hurricanes continued to go up until to the point where we got to into the early part of August, towards mid-July through the early part of August, where the tropical storm risk put out their second to final official forecast, and then their final official forecast, along with the Weather Channel's final official forecast, Colorado State University's official forecast, final official forecast, and NOAA's final official forecast, where they called for around 20 plus named storms total, and potentially up towards double digit amounts of total hurricanes, and then potentially quite a significantly amount of major hurricanes, of around generally 4 to 5 major hurricanes. You can see there's the ending result there. Here's the if I just stop my mouse there, you can see actual activity. By the end of the season, we exceeded the actual activity that occurred exceeded all of the forecasts. Ended up with a total of 30 named storms, 13 hurricanes, and 6 major hurricanes. The end result of the total amount of named storms and total amount of hurricanes by the end of the season generally well exceeded, especially for named storms, all of the forecasts, and then the final amount of major hurricanes by the end of the season pretty much got to the very end of the highest amount of major hurricanes forecasted, particularly from NOAA, from their final official forecast in the beginning of August of 2020. So again, the official forecasts for the season were just constantly being updated and constantly going up in terms of just how much activity could occur. And again, by the time the season ended, we saw extremely record amounts of activity. So again, that is number 10 for sure. That was insane. Number 9, to kind of go along with the record amount of activity that occurred, that it well exceeded all forecasts, the pace of the activity was also going at a record pace. We got our first named storm, Arthur, all the way back in the middle of May of 2020, pretty much followed very closely by Bertha and Cristobal, and Cristobal formed literally right on the first day of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season on June 1st. And then, again, as you can see throughout the rest of the timeline of the named storms we had throughout the season, Dolly occurred generally kind of soon after Cristobal. Edward, Faye, Gonzalo, Hannah all formed relatively close to one another throughout the month of July. In fact, June was the most active June we've seen in at least 2 to 3 years, which was truly incredible. And then we went into August, and we had Isaias, Josephine, Kyle, Laura was our first major hurricane that devastated southwestern Louisiana, and then we had Hurricane Marco that fizzled out and dissipated right before it hit southeastern Louisiana. So that was kind of a relief, but still. And then September, you can see we had the record activity, true record activity, most active September for tropical activity on record, by the way, with 10 named storms forming in the month of September alone. That got us into the Greek alphabet, in fact, towards the middle to the end of September. And then again, going into October and November, the final 2 months of the Atlantic hurricane season, we just continued getting named storms in the Greek alphabet, and we got particularly Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta, and Iota, all becoming generally quite strong hurricanes. Even a majority of them, you can see 4 out of the 5 of them getting to major hurricane status. So that's, in fact, I do think Zeta got to Cat 3 intensity just before landfall in Louisiana. So I was just putting that out there. That's not official, but I think on reanalysis of this season, they'll up Zeta to Cat 3 intensity. And again, you can see the record pace activity is well deserved, especially for just the month of September alone, which is just incredible. All right, so that was number 9. Number 8. This was very interesting to me because I live particularly in the Northeast New England, and a lot of you as well live in the Northeast and maybe as well in portions of New England. The Northeast New England got hit twice during the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, with Tropical Storm Faye and then Hurricane Isaias. When Faye occurred, the last prior time the Northeast New England were really kind of majorly affected by tropical activity was like more or less 8 years prior, when Hurricane Sandy hit the Northeast New England. And of course, Sandy impacted the entire East Coast. And so that was, of course, a much major storm than either of these systems. But I will say, the fact that we got Faye in early July, and then we got Isaias hitting the Northeast New England in early August, so they were practically like a month apart, hitting generally the same exact regions. And Isaias's impacts, in fact, to the Northeast New England reminded me a lot of kind of Irene and Sandy's impacts both. I think it was comparable to Irene from kind of the track it took, if you can kind of see there on the track there as it went up into the Northeast New England, kind of had a similar, somewhat diagonal track from the south to the north through the Northeast New England, kind of like Irene's track, kind of right through that New York City kind of area into New England. And then so Isaias brought a lot of the kind of tree damage and power outage impacts that were kind of similar to what Irene brought to the Northeast and New England, particularly southern New England and New York City area, very comparable kind of damage and tree damage and power outages to Irene, comparable to Isaias. Now, Faye's impacts weren't nearly, of course, as bad as Isaias's impacts, but Faye did bring some quite strong winds to the coast of the Northeast and New England. And I believe coastal New Jersey during Faye did get some storm surge flooding, which I believe was the first time they got storm surge flooding along the coast of New Jersey since Sandy hit New Jersey back in the end of October, practically around Halloween in 2012. So that was very interesting. Now, if you thought that was quite interesting and quite just kind of just odd in a way that finally kind of like 8 years later, it took like 8 years again till the Northeast of New England got hit again by tropical cyclones. Number 7, Florida. Florida, as we think about Florida with tropical cyclones, Florida gets hit by quite strong tropical cyclones, we typically think. But the entirety of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, Florida was entirely spared pretty much. They were pretty much brushed by like some tropical storms, and when Sally was first forming, it hit Florida as a tropical depression, tropical storm. Now, when Sally hit southern Florida as a tropical depression towards a tropical storm, it did bring quite strong flooding impacts there. So that was probably the most majorly impactful storm to Florida, I would say, of all of them. Isaias, again, brushed the east coast of Florida, didn't even make landfall on the east coast of Florida. And then we had Ada go across northern Florida, but I don't believe that did too much to northern Florida either. But Panhandle, Florida, there from Sally, since it hit as a Category 2, almost borderline Cat 3, it did bring some substantial storm surge, flooding impacts, and wind impacts to those regions. In fact, right after Sally occurred, when I saw the flooding images and videos from the flooding damage from Sally in the Panhandle of Florida and coastal Alabama, coastal Mississippi, it reminded me a lot of those flooding photos and videos you saw from after Katrina hit New Orleans, the flooding in New Orleans. Now, of course, that's I mean, both these systems are so both of those systems are so different. You really can't compare either because Katrina was so much worse than Sally. But the kind of images of the flooding disasters that Sally and Katrina caused in these kind of same locations were quite similar to me in a way. So this was just truly really fascinating to watch unfold throughout the entirety of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. That Florida was just not hit at all from any major hurricanes in particular. It was hit by one hurricane, it was almost a major hurricane from Sally, but otherwise it was hit mainly impacted by some tropical storms, and so it wasn't really much of a season for Florida, which, of course, thank God, but that is really not something you would really see that much ever. For tropical cyclones hitting Florida, you wouldn't really see it like this week of tropical cyclones hitting Florida. But yeah, this past year's hurricane season, 2020, it entirely spared Florida pretty much for the most part, which was truly fascinating. Now, number 6, rapid intensification. Now, I pulled this first quote from Wikipedia's page for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. And it says, this season also featured a record 10 tropical cyclones that underwent rapid intensification, tying it with 1995. We had 10 tropical cyclones with it. So 10 of the 30 tropical named storms that occurred during this year's hurricane season, which I'm not great at math, but I believe that's a third, correct me if I'm wrong, of the tropical cyclones that occurred rapidly intensified during the Atlantic hurricane season. But some of the tropical cyclones that rapidly intensified, I listed them off. Hannah was the first one that rapidly intensified, I believe. Then Laura, Ada, Iota, Delta, Zeta, and Teddy. Delta, I know for sure rapidly intensified. Zeta, it did rapidly intensify in the Gulf when it went into the Gulf. Teddy, of course, rapidly intensified because I got to Category 4 status. Iota definitely rapidly intensified because I got to Category 5 status. Ada definitely rapidly intensified, got to strong Category 4 status, but again, I really want to emphasize, I truly think Ada did get to Category 5 status. It's really still way up in the air on whether or not the National Hurricane Center and the World Meteorological Organization, when they meet in the spring, this upcoming spring, on whether or not when they go over Hurricane Ada, of whether or not to retire the name, which of course definitely Ada will be retired along with Iota, but I think on reanalysis of the intensity of Ada, it's really up in the air whether or not they'll upgrade Ada to a Category 5 or keep it at Category 4, but I really do hope that they upgrade it to a Category 5 because of the extensive, truly devastating disaster it just caused and destruction it caused in those Central American countries, of particularly Honduras and Nicaragua, which were the exact same two countries Iota impacted, but we'll get more into that specifically later on in the list. But again, rapid intensification during the season, very well present throughout the season, again, because of course we got 10 tropical cyclones of the 30 tropical cyclones we saw total rapidly intensified during the season, and that tied the record with 1995, which was in fact, the first year between 1995 and 2020, 1995 was the first year where we got into this really active phase of tropical cyclones in the Atlantic. So that's very interesting. So, yeah, again, number 6, rapid intensification. Number 5. Now, this should be very obvious to all of us. The Gulf Coast was very much ravaged, and obviously we got hit by Hurricane Laura, Category 4 intensity, just devastated, flooded and just devastated the southwestern portion of Louisiana, and it was pretty much hit exactly in the same spot and regions again by Zeta, I believe. Or was it? It was Delta. I think it was Delta. Was it Delta or Zeta? I think it was Delta. I believe it was Delta. It was either Delta or Zeta that hit pretty much the exact same spot as Laura there. And in fact, and then of course we got hit. The Louisiana also got hit by Cristobal way earlier in the beginning of the season. It got hit by both Zeta and Delta. And then the Gulf Coast was also hit by tropical storms Tropical Storm Beta, Hurricane Hannah, Hurricane Sally. So the Gulf Coast was just continuously getting hit over and over and over again by tropical cyclones. Because, again, if you look at the general map of all the tropical cyclones that formed, a lot of them went from the Caribbean into the Gulf and hit the Gulf Coast. And these were pretty much all of them that hit the Gulf Coast. And then, of course, actually, Ada also hit the Gulf Coast of Florida, so there's Ada as well. So that's truly, truly unbelievable there. All right, number 4. The record-breaking season in every way. First off, we had a record amount of total depressions that formed, 31, record high, tying it with 2005. Total named storms, again, as I said many times during this video, we had 30 named storms, record high, beat 2005's record high amount of named storms by 2. 2005 had a record high of 28 named storms. We got 30 named storms and beat it by 2 named storms, so that was incredible. And then again as well, I got this portion here from Wikipedia's page for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. The 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. So the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season was the second season to use the Greek letter named storm naming system. When the first time it, of course, was 2005. Of the 30 named storms, 12 of them made landfall in the contiguous United States, breaking the record of 9 set in 1916. The season was also the 5th consecutive season in which at least one Category 5 hurricane formed. That was Hurricane Iota. During the season, 27 tropical storms. 27 out of the 30 named storms. So only 3 named storms did not establish a new record for the earliest formation by storm number. 27 of the 30 named storms established a new record for the earliest formation by storm number. Unbelievable. This season also featured a record, again, as I said before, 10 tropical cyclones that underwent rapid intensification, tying it with 1995. This unprecedented activity was fueled by a La Nina that developed in the summer months of 2020. So yeah, again, it was unbelievable how record-breaking this season was in entirety throughout the entire season. It was just breaking records one after the other. It was just unbelievable to witness and just make videos on throughout this hurricane season, just talking with you guys about all these record-named storms that were happening and just the amount of activity that was going on. It was, again, just such an incredible, unbelievably active season. Number 3, this is truly insane. This is really insane here. Number 3, the entire U.S. coastline minus 2 counties there in the Gulf Coast of Florida, in the Big Bend of Florida there, was under tropical cyclone alerts by the end of the season at one point or another. So practically the entire Gulf Coast, practically all of Florida's coastline, including the Gulf Coast of Florida, the Keys, the East Coast of Florida, all the way up the entire East Coast of the United States were under tropical storm alerts, tropical cyclone alerts, I should say. Because we were under tropical storm watches, tropical storm warnings, storm surge watches, storm surge warnings. Even the entire northeast and New England coastline were under tropical storm watches or warnings. In fact, I think they were all, the entire northeast New England coastline was under a tropical storm warning. Unbelievable. Seriously. I don't think that's ever happened before in any hurricane season to date. I think the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season was the first time an Atlantic hurricane season was able to pretty much entirely cover the United States coastline of the Gulf and East Coast with tropical cyclone alerts. throughout, by the end of the season, at one point or another, throughout for all of those regions, practically. It's unbelievable. And, like, just... And I'm at a loss for words as well, just, like, how insane that is. That's how active the season has been. That's how many named storms impacted the coastline of the United States. That's why this occurred. Of just the amount of named storms that impacted the coastline of the United States, whether it was the Gulf Coast or the East Coast. So, just insane. All right, number 2. This is the runner-up for a good reason. Central America was completely decimated. Now, in particular, with that title for number 2, it was mainly Honduras and Nicaragua that were pretty much completely decimated by 2 named storms in particular, and you can see them here, Hurricane Eta and Hurricane Iota. Both happened and impacted the 2 same countries, Honduras and Nicaragua, 2 weeks apart. Hurricane Eta was an extremely powerful Category 4 hurricane that came ashore in Nicaragua and impacted and devastated Nicaragua and Honduras towards the early to mid part of November, or the earlier part of November, I should say. It's like towards the very end of October, early part of November, that it really decimated Nicaragua, Honduras. Then, practically 2 weeks later, Hurricane Iota formed and became a Category 5 hurricane. The only Category 5 hurricane currently of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. Now, of course, again, it is still up in the air on whether or not Eta will be upgraded to a Category 5. I think it will be, and I think it should be upgraded to a Category 5, but again, that is up to the professionals at the National Hurricane Center and World Meteorological Organization. But Hurricane Iota, again, rapidly intensified to a Category 5 and hit Nicaragua and impacted Nicaragua and Honduras, and totally decimated those exact same regions and made landfall practically in the exact same region as well as Hurricane Eta. In fact, there's a common theme here, kind of like 4 tropical cyclones in particular. These 2, Hurricane Eta and Hurricane Iota, and then Hurricane Laura and Hurricane, I believe it was Delta. I think it was Delta, that hit the exact same regions in some part of the Atlantic Basin. It was incredible. And again, Iota, of course, added to the amount of just extreme catastrophic devastation that Eta caused in these exact 2 same regions in Central America. So, and for a good reason, Central America, this came on number 2. And of course, other portions of Central America were also hit by tropical cyclones during the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. But, and I think this should be quite obviously coming in at number 1, 2020 was the most active season on record, beating 2005, and the most comparable season to 2005. I definitely think it is the most comparable season, for sure, to 2005. Now, we can debate about that in the comment section below on how comparable truly it is to 2005, but the reason I think it is the most comparable to 2005 is because of the fact that it got to the exact same amount of total depressions by the end of the season, 31, record high, tying it with 2005. Total named storms, 30, record high, beating 2005's original record highest amount of named storm record at 28. So, I mean, there's that. Total amount of hurricanes in the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season was 13 total, with 2005's total record amount of hurricanes in a season was 15. So we were only 2 away from 2005 from tying 2005 for the record highest amount of hurricanes in a single Atlantic hurricane season. And then the total amount of major hurricanes we had in the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season was 6, tying it with 2017 for the second most amount of major hurricanes ever in an Atlantic hurricane season. Highest amount of major hurricanes on record. We were 1 away from 2005 from tying 2005 for the record highest ever amount of major hurricanes in a single season at 7. So that is quite comparable. And then again, I put this map here as well to show you that, along with the fact that both in 2005 and 2020, the Gulf Coast was extremely devastated, the Caribbean had, both in 2005 and 2020, were home to some of the most fastest rapid intensifying tropical cyclones on record. 2005, obviously, Wilma. In 2020, we had Delta. Delta was, I believe, the record fastest to intensify from, I think it was a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane, other than Wilma, when Wilma happened and rapidly intensified to a Category 5, and of course Wilma became the most intense Atlantic tropical cyclone in the Atlantic Basin with the lowest pressure at 882 millibars. But of course, again, in the Caribbean hitting Central America, that was also a common theme between 2020 and 2005 with that. So again, that is definitely coming in at number one. It's just again a truly unbelievable Atlantic hurricane season we had last year. It was just insane covering last year's Atlantic hurricane season with you guys on my YouTube channel throughout those 6 months or so. And thank you so much for the support, by the way, throughout those 6 months, covering every single 30 named storms of that last year's hurricane season. I covered all 30 named storms on my YouTube channel that formed during last year's Atlantic hurricane season, which just was incredible to me that I was able to do that, and that all of you were so willing to watch my videos and updates on each and every single one of them. So again, this was number one for my top 10 mind-blowing facts about the last year's Atlantic hurricane season of 2020. And obviously, this makes sense that it comes in at number one. This is the most active Atlantic hurricane season on record, beating 2005. That is definitely the case. And I do think, in my opinion, I don't know about you guys, it is the most comparable Atlantic hurricane season to 2005 as well. So again, really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I want to do more top 10s moving forward on my YouTube channel, and hopefully you guys are in agreement and would love to see more top 10 videos moving forward on my YouTube channel. So again, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider liking the video, commenting on the video. Please like the video to really help and get it out to as many people as possible. I really do want and would like to have a lot of people check out this video, because this was very fun to watch. I loved putting this video together for you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making this video. So again, hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. Again, like the video. As many people, please like the video. Comment on the video on whether or not you like the video, on what you thought about this video. And again, if you're a first-time viewer especially, please consider subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.